not a hard recipe, just kind of an annoying recipe to make.
A lot of work. Wobble, wobble, wobble. That was a lot of flippin' work. I hope it's tasty.
Hello, thank you for stopping by. I'm so glad you're here. If you're just looking for the recipe, it will be written out in the description down below. And welcome to another video where I test random vintage recipes to see if they are easy to make, tasty to eat, and most importantly, affordable. So let's spin the wheel and see what we're going to be making today. P.S. A lamb couscous. That is pure and simple. This is a collection of recipes from Neiman Marcus cookbooks. I've made a couple of things out of here. They're pretty tasty in an early 90s kind of way. So let's look up this recipe, lamb couscous. Page 187. All right, this is not going to be an affordable recipe. There is so much in here. Wowzers. So this recipe was submitted by Deborah Alper of Chicago, Illinois, a local. And it doesn't look like it's going to be very simple. It calls for a lot of different veggies, a lot of seasoning, 2 pounds of lamb. This can't possibly be affordable. I am going to cut it in half because I don't need as big of a portion as this seems to be making. If I can't find the right lamb, I will substitute beef. That's just the way it is. I'm not traveling, an hour each way to a specialty market to get lamb if it's not in my local grocery store. It's just not in my local grocery store, and we'll make two. But let's head out to the grocery store and come back and get right into this. Back from the store, I was able to find everything I need. They did have lamb. This is on the bone, so I'm going to have to cut it off the bone. And it wasn't cheap, but there you go. We will start by doing a little bit of prep work, cutting up the veggies, cutting up the meat, then we'll move back to the stove, and all of it can be done in one pot from that point on. All right, so I know I want to cut the meat last because it's gonna contaminate everything. Second to last, I want to do the onions because they're gonna be stinky. All the rest of this probably doesn't matter what order I go in. I am halving this recipe because I don't need all of this stew. So I'm taking 3 small red potatoes halved. This still seems kind of big. I'm gonna go ahead and quarter them. The recipe calls for 3 carrots. I'm making a half recipe. That would be a carrot and a half, and I'm just gonna be rounding up to 2. Keep that in mind as we go through the rest of the recipe. Everything will be halved, and sometimes I might round up or down, depending on how I feel. So I'm just going to cut these into 1-inch pieces, whatever that means. I'm just cutting little slices. It does note in the recipe that this is French inspired, so they might actually mean like julienne pieces or like some sort of fancy French cut. And I'm pretty sure that I am not going to do that. These go into the pot at the same time as the potatoes. So they're going into the same bowl to hang out until they're ready to be cooked. Now we're doing the zucchini and the yellow squash. Well scrubbed. So I have 1 large zucchini cut into 1-inch pieces. And I just cut this into quarters and then I'm going to slice it. All right, I'm gonna chop up the yellow squash. This is going right into the same bowl with the zucchini because they're going into the pot at the same time. So now you need 3 tablespoons of freshly minced parsley. I thought I had parsley. It turns out we have 2 different cilantros. One just doesn't smell like cilantro because it's older and wiltier, but when you start breaking it apart, it's cilantro. I'm going to toss that one. So if you have some fresh parsley, that's a great addition. Now we need a large tomato cut into wedges. All right, easy peasy. This prep hasn't been difficult so far, but I'm also not doing anything fancy with it. Now we need 2 medium-sized onions sliced. It's a lot of onion. Now we need 1 pound of boneless lamb cut into cubes. I was unable to find boneless lamb, so I'll just have to cut this off the bone. Shouldn't be too difficult. This was a 2-pound package, so I don't need all of it. And I'm going to save these bones with the marrow in them for soup. I'm just putting this whole thing into the freezer. And I'm just cutting this up into small pieces. Nothing fancy. I'm not being careful about the directionality or the marbling or the fat or anything. I'm just cutting it up. Do want to make sure I get all the little pieces of bone Might be hiding in it. Okie dokie. Hey, prep is done. Ready to get started. The cooking process, I think, is not going to be very complicated. There's a couple of little steps. The prep was fairly easy, especially since I wasn't being fussy about the cuts. The cooking process should be moderately uncomplicated. So let's move back to the stove and get into it. All right, we got a big pot here on the stove. We're doing 4 tablespoons of olive oil in here. Getting this nice and hot. Into this hot oil, we're putting 2 medium onions sliced. And we want to cook these until they are golden. So once these onions have a little bit of caramelization going, we can set them to the side. You don't got to take them all the way to caramelized. Just a nice golden glow. I'm going to add in a little bit more olive oil again. Just a bit. We're going to take our meat chunks and add them. We're cooking this meat until it gets brown. And once it's close to browning, I'm going to start adding in the seasoning. 1/4 teaspoon of salt, an 1/8 teaspoon of black pepper, a 1/4 teaspoon of ground cumin, 1/4 teaspoon of coriander, a few saffron threads in there, 1/8 teaspoon of cayenne pepper, and then just a little bit of cinnamon. Once this meat has a good amount of browning, we're going to add in 2 cups of chicken broth. Now we're going to add back in the onions that we sauteed before. We're going to put this on a simmer for 30 minutes. So I moved that to the back burner to simmer for 30 minutes. And it already smells really good. I feel like for the variety of seasonings I put in there, I didn't put very much of any one thing. But I guess I was putting a lot of different ones, so it does come out to quite a bit of seasoning. I'm going to clean up and I'll come back when it's time to start adding the veggies. All right, the lamb, the broth, the onions, and the seasonings have been simmering uncovered for 30 minutes. Now it is time to add in the potatoes and carrots, and you're going to cover it up and simmer it for another 30 minutes. It's been cooking away for another 30 minutes. We're going to add in a can of drained garbanzo beans / chickpeas and the cut up squash and zucchini. So now this is going to simmer for another 40 minutes. The recipe does say that you can make this a day ahead of time, and that's probably a pretty good idea if you're serving this for something like a dinner party, which this really is. It's like a dinner party recipe. You can make it the day ahead, refrigerate it overnight. When people start showing up, you can have it on the stove simmering, reheating, and like you can add like, you know, a little bit of salt or something, act like you're just finishing it up. They don't have to know you made it the day before while you just serve like a little fresh salad or something. But yeah, this is a lot. I cut this in half and it is a huge amount of food so far. To serve with this, we're going to make couscous following the directions on the box, just making sure to use chicken broth instead of whatever liquid, and we're adding some golden raisins to that. So I'm gonna go ahead and make the couscous, and when this is done simmering this time, we'll just add the tomatoes and it should be almost ready to go. And finally, after this has been simmering uncovered for another 40 minutes, it is time to add the 1 beefsteak tomato cut into wedges into the pot. We're going to go ahead and simmer that for a few more minutes, let the tomatoes cook just a little bit. But I think it's time to get started serving, so let's get myself some couscous. I cooked these tomatoes literally for just a couple of minutes. Oof. All right. Come over here. So I think this looks absolutely delicious. It smells delicious. Certainly took long enough. Give myself a couple of spoonfuls. Trying to get a little bit of everything. Here you go, lamb couscous. Let's go in for a bite to see if this is as tasty as it smells. And for whatever reason, whenever something has been cooking for a long period of time and the house has smelled like it for several hours, I'm always extra hungry. If there'd been nothing cooking for the past 3 hours, I wouldn't be so hungry. But because I've been smelling it, my brain is just like, let's eat, let's eat, let's eat. Bottoms up. It is very tasty. There's enough different components in this that I feel like every bite's going to be a little bit different, depending on what you get in that bite. But the meat is very, very tender. I like lamb. There is a hint of the gaminess from the lamb, but I really enjoy that. The seasoning in there is subtle but complex. Very happy with that part. And yeah, the veggies are nice. Just a nice assortment of different vegetables, and adding them in at different stages of cooking guarantees that none of them are overcooked. So tastiness wise, I absolutely recommend this. It's a very tasty recipe. But let's go back to the easy to make part. Not so much. It doesn't really require any techniques, but it does require some fuss. There's a lot of chopping veggies. There's a lot of cooking this and then taking it out of the pot and then cooking that and then adding things step by step. It is quite a bit of work. Not quite a bit of technique, just quite a bit of work. So not a hard recipe, just kind of an annoying recipe to make. But if you've got the time, say you are getting ready for a dinner party the next day and you're cleaning house or whatever, you can mind it for a while. That wouldn't be so bad, but it's definitely not an easy recipe to make. Now on to the affordability part. So for this half recipe, it was $18.99. I think you could easily get 6 to 10 servings out of this. For 6 servings, that would be $3.16 per serving. Not bad at all. However, the reality of buying for this is going to be kind of different than just the cost per serving, because pretty much anyone's going to have to go to the store to get a lot of specialty goods. And a lot of this stuff is like, what am I going to do with leftover? Like extra couscous, yeah, you can use that. Extra lamb, yeah, you can use that, but I have to freeze it. The seasonings, I put just $1 for pantry because I had all the seasonings on hand. I think a lot of people wouldn't. It is a lot of different seasonings that you have to add in one by one. And if you don't have them on hand, that could get pricey to get each and every little thing. So the recipe is not that easy to make. It is very tasty to eat, and it's not really that affordable. I recommend it as a special occasion situation, but it's tasty nonetheless. I've known some younger people who are trying to save money and not eat out so much, but then they say, you know, cooking at home, sometimes it's even more expensive than eating out. It's crazy. And I think the problem is that so many recipes that are easy to find today are super complicated. I call it the food blog syndrome, where our recipes just require a lot of specialty ingredients and a lot of time and effort. And if you don't have a set pantry, it can get crazy expensive. The seasoning for this, if I did not have it in stock and I had to buy each individual seasoning, it would have been like $40 or $50 worth of seasonings. It's crazy. So one of my goals with this YouTube series is to show people that there are really tasty recipes that don't require a lot of money to make and are simple, and you can save money from eating out, even today with as expensive as groceries are. Nothing against this recipe. It's delicious. It's just not an everyday recipe. So that is all for today. If you have enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. That helps more than you can know. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the future. What? What? You're being awfully bossy. You're not supposed to be on the counter when I'm cooking. You good girl. Yeah? Oh, am I still recording?